get this set up because it takes a few clicks here to have this all correct. And just to say, it's absolutely wonderful to be here again. Like Andre, it is major springtime here in the Boston area where I'm joining you from. And it's one of my favorite times of the year, of course, with all the daffodils and forsythias blooming with their yellow colors. It's almost like a trumpet call to me of, yay, spring is here. So I've been spending a lot of time gardening and walking in the woods nearby. And we'll actually talk about that as a kind of counterbalance, something that we all need to do. And when Andre invited me here for this session, I realized, wow, let's see, I'm doing this. Some of you heard me. I gave a Front Range Anthroposophical Cafe talk last Good Friday. And so given that today is less than a week from Easter, I debated if it would feel sacrilegious for this webinar to be on artificial intelligence and the realm of Ahriman. Well, based on my theme last week, which was the 3 on Golgotha, I realized this talk actually does fit. And to support that, let me use a quote I used last week. It goes like this. This is Steiner quote. Human beings must consciously wrestle through to an understanding of this trinity, the trinity of 3 impulses, that is the Ahrimanic, the Luciferic, and the Christian. For without this consciousness, we will not be able to go forward into the future with the prospect of achieving the goal of Earth existence. So you see, for us to be preparers of the future, we must become fully aware of this trinity. We must be aware that Ahriman's goal is a utopia. He'd love a heaven on earth, or I should say, the physical earth. We need to come to understand how that goal is in conflict with those divine beings who guide our evolution and who intended for our journey into the physical to be temporary. With the launch of Chat GPT in November last year, many have said, the world has changed. This chatbot developed by a company called OpenAI took the world by storm. Following its wildly successful launch, that Microsoft increased its investment greatly in OpenAI. And Microsoft has their own search engine called Bing, which now has this Chat GPT. And so now it provides users with generated answers instead of gobs of links for them to choose from. So Google, who's been the market leader, has had to react. And it's going to be launching its own AI product, it's called Bard. So we have Bing, we have Bard. What's next? Another 4-letter word beginning with B, bird. How about bomb? Whoops, I don't want to play fear here. A poor attempt at humor, I'm sorry. Anyway, these chatbots leverage the power of large language models that are intended to integrate into the search process. So hence the name generative AI, because they can not only summarize or translate, but generate new text. So not only new text, but it's claimed new music, new art. Here are just a tiny sampling of what one can now find for new uses of AI: healthcare, writing blogs, writing articles and even books, generating marketing content. All these say, Let AI do the dirty work of putting thoughts to print while you focus on being creative. Do you have a blog? Okay, so you might say, okay, AI, write my next blog on why Waldorf education is so important for our future with AI. However, AI experts have become increasingly concerned about its potential for biased reports, racism, misinformation, goodness, and destruction of privacy. These AI tools have also sparked questions about how artificial intelligence can enable students to cheat. Amazing. Upend various professions and dramatically shift our relationship with technology. Those of you who are astrosophers, hopefully you've asked, why is this happening now? Why, it's Easter time. Others will ask, are we ready for this? Will we ever be ready for this? Is it at all appropriate for it to enter this stage of human evolution? And what in us or in civilization is now at risk of dying? Fear of AI is now the top subject in blogs and podcasts. 1,100 tech leaders recently signed the Future of Life Institute's open letter, including names like Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak of Apple, and one-time presidential candidate Andrew Yang. This letter called for a 6-month moratorium in order to bring human moral thought and regulation into chat AI development. Wow. These leaders have concerns that there lingers the potential for disastrous effects of this technology upon humankind. Now, just as they were preparing this, GPT-4, which is the successor to ChatGPT, was released. So the moratorium is hoped to apply to next-gen AI systems. It called for open source code developed by independent experts that implements a set of shared protocols for AI tools that are safe beyond a reasonable doubt. The letter said advanced AI could represent a profound change in the history of life on Earth and should be planned for and managed with commensurate care and resources, end quote. The concern is exasperated by an out-of-control arms race, you could call it, to develop and deploy ever more powerful AI tools that, quote, no one, not even their creators, can fully understand, predict, or reliably control, end quote. And that's from that Future of Life open letter. If a pause is not put in place soon, the letter said governments should step in and enforce a moratorium. But as you will see, with all the money at stake, what government is willing to do this? OpenAI, Microsoft, and Google are at the forefront of this trend. But there's a slew of others like IBM, Amazon, Baidu, Tencent, and a long list of startups, all racing to develop various AI tools that will operate as writing assistants, image generators, and much, much more. So let me give you an example of the seriousness with this clip from Lex Friedman's podcast. Let's hope this works. Sorry about the ads. They were supposed to not happen.
It means the world that Sam has been totally open with me. willing to have multiple conversations, including challenging ones, on and off the mic. I will continue to have these conversations to both celebrate the incredible accomplishments of the AI community and to steelman the critical perspective on major decisions various companies and leaders make, always with the goal of trying to help in my small way. If I fail, I will work hard to improve. I love you all. This is the Lex Friedman Podcast. To support it, please check out our sponsors in the description.
So you can see by his, let's see, how do I remember to go back to, excuse me a minute. I don't remember how to end this. That's not what I wanted to do. Oh, that's what I wanted to do. Sorry about that. So we've known for a decade that self-driving cars would be here one day. Will we be safer? Probably. There will be no drunks driving. But what about hackers? Might this become the way of assassination in the future? Now, the industry has defined 5 levels of this technology. Level 1 is what you got today, hands-on, with a little bit of shared control. Level 2, hands-off. Level 3, eyes-off. Level 4, mind-off. And level 5, no need for a steering wheel. As of April 2023, vehicles operating at level 3 and above were available, but an insignificant market factor. Back in December of 2020, Waymo became the first service provider to offer driverless taxi rides to the general public. I just read that Scotland is about to launch a driverless buses on May 15th. And Honda was the first manufacturer to sell a legally approved level 3 car. Again, level 3, eyes off, as you see pictured here. So now you're going to be seeing lots more ads as more companies are bringing this to market. Not so many years ago, such manufacturing lines that you see here were staffed with many hundreds of blue-collar workers. During my college years in Michigan, I spent one summer working third shift for a company called Motor Wheel. Those summer jobs and jobs in general, those kinds of manufacturing jobs in general, are gone now. The worldwide sum of the work performed by robots today amounts to many millions of human hours per week. Nearly all of the jobs of the industrial age are now done by robots. Now, please ask yourself, is that a bad thing? Or could it be a good thing for human evolution? My foster daughter once had a job with an Amazon distribution hub. This mock-up image shows the future of such jobs. Most of the fast food delivery and other unskilled or lightly skilled service and logistics jobs will be done by robots. What will high school students and dropouts do for work in this near future? As a business owner in a competitive environment, you have to go this way for quality control, staff scheduling, and cost containment. I hear the sound of the alarm bell for threefolding going off. Do you? I'm showing here a McDonald's that operates without any humans, except that the store manager does a fraction of the restocking task and does it perhaps once a week, or depending on business, maybe once a day. Predictions claim that in Japan by 2025, more than 80% of elderly care will be done by robots, not human caregivers. Even their comfort animals are being replaced by robots. Will this come to your country? Will this be the environment of your elder care? At the end of the age scale, we have baby monitors to let their moms know if they are still napping. Did your daughter opt for a Wi-Fi connected baby monitor in her home as mine did? If we can accept them for newborns, why not for the elderly? Besides, more than half of all suburban homes now have some sort of surveillance system installed. In 2022, a company called Bed Bible, I'm serious, published a study that claimed that the sex robot industry sold about 200 million in 2021. They said that the average price was $3,567 per sex bot. That would mean about 56,000 sex bots were sold in 2021. As this becomes a worldwide market, where there is an adult population today of around 5 billion, and with most of these men destined to have no job, but still have plenty of sexual energy, plus basic universal income, it is expected that this will become a multi-billion-dollar industry. Now, if I was your financial advisor, here is where I tell you to place those speculative investment funds that all of you have. Many people partially define themselves according to their job. It gives one a sense of self-worth and defines how they fit into society. Speaking of money and jobs, and despite how some of you may feel about the World Economic Forum, let's take a look at what's predicted in the future job market. But before we do, let's first take a look at how the workplace appeared in the mid-1900s. Here we see a textile factory. Imagine having this for your 8 to 5, not 9 to 5 job. If you hated this work, your only hope back then was to get married. Now, these men had similar 8 to 5 jobs. Well, sort of similar. Think of the dramatic change for the role of women in the workplace that has taken place in the past few decades. Would you say these jobs were dominated by Ahriman or Lucifer or both? Was there any space here for Christ? There is a form of AI that operates all telephone networks today, plus the World Wide Web, that is the internet. Before this built-in intelligence happened, this scene was very common. Is the loss of such jobs a gift or a misfortune? As we free ourselves from being immersed in Ahrimanic work by giving it to AI and robotics, what will we do with our free time? Back then, these women and men went out to dance halls after work. What will robots do after a hard day at work?
On your route to let you know it really shake them down.
We're not seeing the video, Andrew.
Oh, you get the point. And I wish to make that dancing in theater back in those days provided a kind of counterbalance for that Ahrimanic work. But that work has largely been replaced today. And what have we done with dancing and theater? Well, most of us sit at home and be entertained in front of screens with our dead junk food. We need to kindle a fire for spiritual science in society today. So I've tried to show that there is not only financial benefits for businesses to reap bigger profits due to productivity and quality increases from deploying AI instead of humans, but there are significant cultural and civilization changes that follow each step. When leaders in Western countries see a graph like this, it sets off nationalistic alarms. We can't let China beat us to market because he who initiates later dominates. Is a moratorium even possible with such nationalistic concerns? By the way, Rudolf Steiner predicted ongoing struggles, especially between China and the United States of America. Could this be one of the fields of this East-West struggle? Alibaba revealed this past Tuesday its chatbot, if I can ever say that, chatbot version, and said it would be integrated into all of its company's apps in the near future. Its name, watch out everybody, I'm going to try to say something in Chinese, Hongyi Huiwen, means truth from 1,000 questions. In a demo this week, it drafted invitation letters, planned trip itineraries, and advised shoppers on what to purchase. It will initially be integrated into their Ding Talk, a workplace app that is used to do things like summarize meeting notes, write emails, and draft business proposals. Interestingly, the Cyber Administration of China said that while the country supported the technology's innovation, content generated must adhere to core socialist values, as well as to laws in place on data security and personal information protection. It is unknown how the Chinese government can or will control the content that this AI generates. Might this technology make futile any government efforts to control its people and the new media? So according to that World Economic Forum report, what jobs are at stake? Well, most jobs will dramatically change, and many of these will disappear in the coming decades. While blue-collar jobs and many women's jobs of the industrial age succumb to robotics, now it is the turn of white-collar jobs. And a side note, aren't you glad you sent your kids to a Waldorf school? At first, artificial intelligence will be used to increase each employee's productivity. So I'll give you an example. Let's take a team of 8 employees reporting to a manager. In the next decade, that manager will let go of probably 7 of those, keeping their most productive employee. And they will be highly productive because of all of these AI tools. Now, that one employee left, will that employee have human interactions? Will there be a business need anymore for human interactions? Will such work lose its meaning for employees if one no longer has colleagues at work, but only robots? Will people in such jobs decide, it ain't worth it, I quit? I can live on universal basic income and spend my time painting with watercolors, painting my spiritual experiences. Will we come to a time when this scenario unfolds, where people will work not for a salary, but work out of love, even love for such a job with its social effects? Will that be some new kind of work that one loves that doesn't exist yet? I love the subtitle to this book that is a key statement for transhumanism. The subtitle, if you can't read it, is Being Human in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. The book claims that with our merger with machines, Life 3.0 will come about. I find the artist's depiction of the human on that cover resembles the event upon Golgotha. Would the mystery of Golgotha have taken place if Judas did not betray the Christ? On the 28th of June, 1909, Steiner had this to say, quote, "I am going to tell you a truth which should be engraved in the human soul as a lofty moral maxim. When you see something evil in the world, do not say, 'There is evil.' Ask rather, how can I attain to the enlightenment which will show me that on a higher plane, this evil is transformed into good by the wisdom of the cosmos? How can I learn to tell myself, here you see naught but imperfection, because you are as yet unable to grasp the perfection of this imperfect thing? Whenever we see evil, we should look into our own soul and ask, why am I not yet able to recognize the good in this evil that confronts me?" That's the end of the quote. So you see, the real battle with evil must be seen as an inner battle. Given all this, you might think that our role as spiritual scientists is to fight against AI and robotics. Instead, Rudolf Steiner urged us to find the appropriate counterbalances. Only this will help us to deal with Ahriman's impending incarnation. We also need to know what comes after that incarnation. When the sixth post-Atlantean cultural age comes, what will life be like then? And in the seventh post-Atlantean cultural age, what will become of our physical existence? We might conclude that all this AI and transhumanism might have some fulfillment in that seventh post-Atlantean cultural age, because in that future time, our existence on Earth will be made possible only through the assistance of the fallen spirits of darkness, along with the beings who are the gods of technology, namely the Vulcan beings. Think about that. We will no longer incarnate through sexual procreation after the year 5700 AD. Why must our evolution be so hard? Rudolf Steiner spoke to this. Yet we must, quote, "Yet we must be clear that what seems to be hindrance and destruction is in the long run, again, membered into the wisdom of the whole system. One might therefore say, when something apparently destructive, retarding, and evil exists anywhere, then evolution in its whole course will be so wisely guided that even this evil, this destruction, and this hindrance will be reversed and changed into the good." Let me take a moment to delve a bit deeper into some specific counterbalances for living in this technological age. We are called upon to practice spirit awareness. That in itself is a counterbalance. There are anthroposophical practices in addition, such as eurythmy, that we can do that can exercise an experience of the etheric, that is, of supernature. I should mention that such exercises carry the danger of loosening one's etheric from one's physical. While this aids in the development of one's organs for perception in the etheric, it also means further decay for the physical body. Obviously, we need a counterbalance for all our sitting, or some of you may be standing in front of your screens. Yes, we need more movement. So here are some suggestions for more movement. One, go for a walk every day at the same time for 1 hour or more, your 10,000 steps and those sorts of things. While walking, you'll be breathing in sunlight. More on that later. 2, do eurythmy, even if you're doing it online. Move. 3, sing in a choir. That can be moving. 4, do gardening. It's that time of year. Something more than merely looking at nature. Get your hands dirty. Experience the life cycle from seed to flower to seed again. And 5, engage in outdoor play. And your children, they need at least 2 hours a day. So if you are often working in front of a computer screen, as I do, then for your eyes, every 20 minutes, look out a window at nature. Look at something that's at least 20 meters away and look for at least 20 seconds before returning to your screen. Every age has its tasks and challenges. The challenge of the times often seems greatest for the present age. I will admit that our challenges of our age do seem far more severe than those of 100 years ago when Rudolf Steiner was building Anthroposophy. But I am reminded of a passage in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 that says, God will not let you be tempted beyond your ability, but with each temptation, he will also provide the counterbalance, the escape, so that you may be able to endure it. Endure it? Now listen to Rudolf Steiner. Everybody is obliged to undergo the battle of our times. In its effects, it is experienced by everybody. There would be no greater fallacy than to say, we must rebel against what technical science has brought us in modern life. We must protect ourselves from Ahriman. We must withdraw from this modern life. In a certain respect, such an attitude would be an indication of spiritual cowardice. The real remedy lies not in allowing the forces of the soul to weaken and to withdraw from modern life, but in so strengthening these forces that its pandemonium can be endured. Pandemonium can be endured. Steiner actually said that too. World karma demands a courageous attitude to modern life. And that is why genuine spiritual science calls at the very outset for effort, really strenuous effort on the part of the human soul. And just a comment here, Ahriman hopes to defeat this by making us all wonderfully comfortable so that we have no interest in strenuous effort. I don't seem to be able to advance my slides. There we go. So sorry for that little break. AI has forced us to ask, what is it to be human? Forced us to ask, what is it to be human? Our confrontation with AI places this question before our collective minds. What other creature asks, what was I? What am I? What will I become? And after that asks, why? Are we earthly beings or cosmic beings? How am I like the fixed stars or like the rhythms of the moving stars or like the four elements shown to me through my physical senses? AI forces another question. Is the brain just a biomachine? If so, who wrote the software? Using concepts learned from the brain, neural networks in particular, helped make AI take enormous leaps in the past decade. Our materialism, successful so far, keeps our interpretations fully within the realm of the lifeless. But by facing such questions, will AI eventually lead us to discover the living, the etheric? Are any of the traits that AI might steal from us part of our essential nature as humans? Are we facing a crisis of what it means to be human? Is AI removing the veils of materialism for us to better see what it is to truly be human? Must our picture of the human continue to evolve? Is it there yet? To understand evolution, we need to know that there have been prior planetary conditions. The astrophysics field of metallicity agrees with this picture in that there were three prior solar systems, as they would call it. Each of these, Saturn, Sun, and Moon, had beings who were upon its human stage. The conditions were so different on each that nothing physical offers a similarity. Each of these had a purpose. With the current solar system, a goal of Earth evolution is the development of morality that plays an important role in the future solar systems of Jupiter, Venus, and Vulcan. It is a human task to bring about the interpenetration of the moral and the mechanical. Just as light and dark were brought into interpenetration, resulting in colors, so shall something new and important arise for Jupiter from such an interpenetration. On Jupiter, we will be to those on Jupiter's human stage as angels are to us who are on the human stage of Earth. Beings of hindrance only began in the old moon phase, and they continue here in the earthly, but will end in the Jupiter phase. Now, one of the spirits of hindrance for Earth is known as Ahriman, the Lord of Death. I must say, fear feeds Ahriman. The angel said to the shepherds, "Fear not." Today, we can overcome our fears through spiritual science, especially through its views of evolution. In the course of evolution, there was an incarnation of Lucifer some 5,000 years ago in the East. Then came the incarnation of Christ. Now we face the incarnation of Ahriman. This must happen. Just as Lucifer and Christ were allowed to prepare, so will Ahriman be allowed to prepare. It is not for us to stop Ahriman's preparations, but for us to prepare, to be able to recognize him, and in doing so, to properly evolve. We are now in the 5th of 7 epochs of human evolution upon Earth. We were not within reach of Ahriman until we fell from Eden to the physical Earth during the Lemurian epoch. Our first physical body was composed of air, but at that time, air was nothing like what it is today. And at that time, we breathed fire. Later, our bodies condensed into the watery element. Then we were like jellyfish, and we were also androgynous. We are now well past the midpoint in Earth evolution. Everything was once alive. Death separated out the lifeless kingdom. We are now in the second half of Earth evolution, a period where decay dominates growth, just as it does in old age. Not until the middle of the Atlantean epoch did we as humans emerge from the watery element to stand upon what had become solid during the Atlantean epoch. Only after we stood upright did sexual procreation for humanity begin, and Seth was the first so born of 2. Only from mid-Atlantis until the end of this 5th epoch will mankind stand upon the solid earthy element. In this, the 5th epoch, we must complete the spiritual impulses begun during the Lemurian epoch. As such, everything to do with the need for the physical, everything that required the separation of bodies in space, all this will end by the year 8000. The whole of our post-Atlantean cultural evolution finds its meaning when humanity has evolved through the physical world, where we can develop new talents. As we evolve, the danger is that we may lose sight of how we got here, or we may cower in fear of our way forward. We might come instead to love the physical so much that we won't want to leave it behind when the proper time of ascension begins. Artificial intelligence asks us to ponder, what does it mean to be a human being? As reincarnating beings, are we not more cosmic than earthly? A new life in the etheric realm awaits us in the 6th epoch. Each epoch is composed of 7 cultural ages. Ascension to this new life begins at the end of the 6th cultural age of this, the 5th epoch. Finally, our earthly evolution finishes with the 7th epoch, when the astral realm descends to our existence. What kind of bodily members will we have then? We will be very different beings on the human stage of that 7th epoch. So Lucifer has the role for us to relish the glories of the past and to lead us back there, while Ahriman says, the past is past, forget about it. Focus on your future, on what you want and what you need from this world. For the only true reality is the now and the physical. The last diagram showed Earth evolution. This diagram shows human evolution, with the mystery of Golgotha at the turning point in time. 333 years before was the time of Aristotle and Alexander. It was effectively the close of the mysteries. Gnosticism prevailed long enough for some people to grasp what happened on Golgotha. But 333 years later, with the rise of Constantine and the coming of Roman Christianity, things like the Council of Nicaea and the turning from knowledge to faith, this path of knowledge to God, namely Gnosticism, had to fade away. I show you this timeline not to cause fear, but to show what it is that we, especially here in the West, need to prepare. This shows future events, according to Steiner, when our earthly existence and experience will change. In red, we see the start and end dates for the coming 6th and 7th post-Atlantean cultural ages. In green, the start of the 6th epoch, when we will no longer have a physical existence. I try to indicate approximately where some future events will occur. The appearance of Christ in the etheric is showing us today the way. It will last until about the year 5000. Soon thereafter, sexual procreation will come to an end. This will be the time when the Maitreya Buddha will appear and touch the remains of Kashyapa with his right hand, causing this preserved corpse to be transported in fire. This is the same fire made manifest to Paul on the road to Damascus. This fire will rescue for future times all that was great and noble in this 5th epoch. In the spiritualized fire in which the Christ appeared to Paul, the body of Kashyapa, untouched by corruption, will be saved through the Maitreya Buddha. This is a picture of how our ascension can take place. For the 7th post-Atlantean cultural age, for the benefit of those not yet able to ascend, some kind of life on earth will continue. And as I said before, with the help of the fallen angels of darkness and the gods of technology, namely the Vulcans. Near the end of the 7th post-Atlantean cultural age, there will arise a brood of spidery beings that will cover the earth. These will arise out of the dead thoughts we form today and in this near future. They arise as the moon begins to come closer to the earth. Today, it is still inching away, but by the year 6000, it will then begin its return. These spidery beings will be the long-sought bodies desired by our Ahrimanic doubles. Just before the moon returns, the great war of all against all will be waged. The physical realm will henceforth be the domain of Ahriman. The lowest member of the human constitution will therefore be the etheric body. This will enable us to work upon manas. This picture might be alarming to some. It is not a picture showing how the comforts of the good life will prevail. It does not show, at least in this cutout timeline, a future point where afterwards all beings live in love and harmony. That will come, but much farther out in the future. This does not mean that we should not practice now those goals that we hope to attain. The Age of Spiritual Machines was written by Ray Kurzweil in 1998 and published in 1999. The Singularity is Near hit the bookshelves in 2011. Ray Kurzweil intended to predict and describe the future merger of the human with artificial intelligence. He predicted this would happen by 2045, and he maintains this prediction. According to Kurzweil, in the recent podcast with Mr. Friedman that we heard earlier, the main steps to transhumanism are: 1, passing the Turing test by 2029. If successful, he claims, then machines can be declared to be self-conscious. Chat GPT has many thinking that the Turing test will easily be attained well before 2029. Number 2, merging machine with a human neocortex by 2030. Approaching this phase, human memory will gradually change by relying on instant access to data and images. And the introduction of nanotech will enable such access from our neocortex. Interestingly, Rudolf Steiner also talked about the issue of merging man with machine, and he did so in GA 178 on the 25th of November, 1917, where he said, "The point is not what is going to happen, for it certainly will happen, but how it happens, how these things are handled. The welding together of man and machines will be a great and important problem for the rest of the physical earth evolution of humans." Number 3, singularity by 2045. Here, singularity means that artificial intelligence will be fully merged with human intelligence and will have the autonomy to evolve by itself as a new, enhanced being. This being will easily be able to elude illness and death, and of course, reincarnation, thus achieving Ahrimanic immortality. And Rudolf Steiner foretold something similar for how humans will be able to participate on the physical earth in the 7th post-Atlantean cultural age. Ray Kurzweil believes that with science and its brother technology, we can bring about a heaven on earth by eliminating all illnesses and perhaps even death. We will be able to build replacements for those bodily parts that fail or are deemed to be inferior. What does this mean for our future? Shouldn't we be afraid? You should if you want to preserve the world as you have known it. Here's an excerpt from Rudolf Steiner. Without people being aware of it, a completely new world developed in a relatively short time. Just take the time from 1870, when 6.7 million horsepower years were used in Germany, to 1912, when 79 million horsepower years were used. And by the way, that's a 12-fold increase. And today, the number of horsepower years has many, many million times increases. End of my comment. Back to Steiner. This is a world that did not exist before. These forces are present in the human environment and in major events like those we have seen in recent years, meaning World War I. Human destiny is now dependent on them. Human destiny is now dependent on them, just as formerly it was dependent on natural phenomena. And we can't go back. These forces and energies also exist and take effect independent of human beings, just as the forces of nature were independent of human beings. Demons, elemental powers, are active in these machines, but their effects on human beings differ from those of the elemental powers that humans perceived in the phenomena of nature in the past. So here I'm showing the occult sign of the Lamb. The Lamb received the book with the 7 seals, and between the throne and the 4 living creatures and among the elders, I saw a lamb standing as though it had been slain, with 7 horns and with 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. This is from Revelations chapter 5. The 7 corners of the sign are called horns, but what do the eyes mean? In occult schools, the signs of the 7 planets are written next to the 7 eyes. The 7 eyes signify nothing other than the 7 planets, while the names of the planets designate the spirits incarnated in them as their intelligence. Ahriman's incarnation, has it already happened? Can it get any worse? I believe his incarnation in the flesh will be after Michael's reign, as the time spirit has ended. The next time spirit will be Raphael, the archangel of Saturn, of beginnings before there is light. I put this incarnation of Ahriman about the year 2233, and I'll explain a little bit. There are previews of coming distractions every 33.3 years, with 1933 being a mini peak. Then 100 years later, in 2033, will be a mini peak, and this is critical in all the transhumanism and Ray Kurzweil stuff. And then 100 years thereafter, or 2133, and then again in 2233, when Raphael will be the time spirit. And from 333 BC to 333 AD, there are 666 years. 666 is the number of the sun demon, Sorat, who is the tempter to black magic. And beware, Sorat is not the same as Ahriman, and people confuse this a lot, and they try to conflate them. Sorat works into human evolution every 660 years. Rudolf Steiner saw this in the rhythm 1 times 666, where the Academy of Gandhi Shapur, 2 times 666, when King Philip IV destroyed the Knights Templars, and 3 times 666, or 1998, with the start of transhumanism. I would be remiss if I did not attempt to give you a handle on the question, can a computer think? And Valdemar Setzer is here, Valdemar, and he gave a wonderful webinar to the MysTech community a year ago or so. And in this, he showed why we can say a computer cannot think. It is a fundamental assumption, however, of prognosticators of AI's future that the computer will be able, or is already able, to do so. Their thinking has been based on the concept that our brain is but a bio machine. One day, we will learn how to integrate with its software, and then we can figure out how to upload our own being, that is our software, into the cloud. And then we should be able to live forever, immortality, Ahriman style. This is where materialism, coupled with egotism, will lead us. This is why The Philosophy of Freedom is such an important book. Its title for us here in the West was meant to be The Philosophy of Spiritual Activity. And now you understand why. For here in the West, we are to primarily see thinking as a spiritual activity. The purpose of the brain is to reflect this spiritual activity so that we, in our awake consciousness, can be aware of our own thinking. Long ago, people correctly, for their time, experienced their thinking not as their own, but that it thought in me. As consciousness has evolved, we have entered into a period where our thoughts are bound to the lifeless. Dead thinking arose in the 15th century when our thinking descended to function entirely within the physical brain and physical senses. This diagram shows how this dead thinking takes place today. Human thinking is the shadow image of mental pictures in beings belonging to the astral plane. Thoughts in our head arose from experiencing living beings on the astral plane. Their mental pictures and deeds cast their shadow images. These processes are reflected in the human head as thinking. We see the after effects of thinking in blood flow in certain regions of the brain. The blood restores those brain cells affected by this thinking, just as ocean waves wash clean any footprints on the sand. Our awareness of our thoughts comes via this reflection of our dead thoughts by the physical matter of our brain. Gradual development of these still imperfect primitive machines. Oh, sorry, I'm quoting Steiner at the moment from Man as Symphony of the Creative Word. Gradual development of these still imperfect primitive machines into a kind of machine which depends on vibrations and where the aim is to make the machines effective by means of vibrations, by means of movements that run periodic courses. Everything is hastening towards such machines. Thus, we will come to understand how the motions, even of human moods, allow themselves to be translated into wave motions on machines. Hitherto undiscovered forces within human nature will be discovered, forces that will work on outer electric and magnetic forces in the machine. The first problem is to bring together human beings with the mechanical, which will have to prevail increasingly in the future. That's a quote from Steiner from The Reappearance of Christ in the Etheric, Lecture 12. This is the right direction for human evolution. Our job is to find the counterbalances. To continue that quote, the second problem consists in calling upon the help of the spiritual circumstances to find those counterbalances. Now, from pastoral medicine, Steiner spoke of a grim future, but he offered these counterbalances. When a ray of light streams into your eye, the sun spirit is streaming in with that ray of light. The spirit of the sun is the substance of this refined breathing. With our sense perceptions, we breathe in the manifold ingredients or the four ethers of the spiritual sun. As one unfolds in an etheric body, one develops thinking in their etheric body, a thinking of the universe. With all these advances in AI, many feel spiritual science no longer has a chance. Ahriman is way too strong, way too far ahead. But look at this partial list of new directions in various scientific fields. Couple this with what we've heard about the questions AI has recently raised. It is a great challenge as any humanity has ever faced, but it is certainly not hopeless. Those of you who are interested in this evolution of science ought to consider attending this conference in May. Many of you know this verse that was derived from a couple lectures given by Rudolf Steiner. It goes like this. We must eradicate from the soul all fear and terror of what comes toward us out of the future. We must acquire serenity in all feelings and sensations about the future. We must look forward with absolute equanimity to all that may come, and we must think only that whatever comes is given to us by a world direction full of wisdom. This is what we have to learn in our times, to live out of pure trust in the ever-present help of the spiritual world. And just as a side comment, but we have to rise up to speak their language. Surely nothing else will do if our courage is not to fail us. Let us properly discipline our will, and let us seek the inner awakening every morning and every evening. It is possible that your grandkids will never learn to drive a car. It is likely they will have no need to learn penmanship, and then humanity might lose handwriting. One day, all books likely will be audio. Then reading too might disappear. What must we not lose to AI? And what, in the course of evolution, should we give up to AI? Now that we've reached the end of my presentation, you might wonder, what do I, Andrew, think about all this? I've given you some, but you might ask, is AI ready to take those car keys? Should there be a moratorium? I will offer this. The call for moratorium, with its reference to morality, is for me especially hopeful. Not so much the moratorium, because I'm not sure that will happen, but the reasoning of the letter, and with its focus on morality, gives me great hope. In general, these developments will lead to more free time for humanity. Freedom from Ahrimanic demands could allow for spiritual science to come to the world. But I suspect most will use that free time to watch more TV or YouTube videos. AI is the fruit of statistics. It is based entirely on our dead thoughts. It cannot be sentient in it, at least in its current construction. And I don't know how it ever could, but Steiner says that those spidery beings of the future will have a kind of life between the lifeless mineral and the plant kingdom. What about the elemental beings within technology? Rudolf Steiner called them Ahrimanic demons. Such demons are being given a say in our evolution, and their nature has them lead our evolution, to where they will obtain bodies for themselves. Those are those spidery beings we've heard. All of this is strangely necessary. It will help us to better understand our own evolution and our future relationship with these Ahrimanic beings. Michael is the region of the cosmic intelligence. The intelligence that humanity has developed has rightly been, so far, an earthly intelligence, an Ahrimanic intelligence. AI actually offers to us an opportunity to devote ourselves to reestablishing this cosmic intelligence for humanity's future evolution and for Michael. AI and robotics has already dramatically changed the workplace, but the changes yet to come will force society to take up questions addressed by threefolding. Now is the time to restart the campaign to bring threefolding to the world. And I'm especially encouraged to see some people striving in that way, and also to bring spiritual science to the world. With the changes in the job market coming, never has the importance of Waldorf education been greater. And as we go to your questions, I want to know what you think. So I'm going to do 3 more slides. They'll be very quick. You see, before the mystery of Golgotha, Christ appeared as helper with a human being who was asleep and when they were asleep. After the mystery of Golgotha, unless one establishes a conscious relationship to the Christ while awake and carries this the echo of this into sleep, Steiner says one is bereft of Christ's help. This is a necessary part of human evolution. Once it was through dream consciousness that one interacted with such spiritual beings. Now it must be in freedom. So only during our awake consciousness can we become the companion of the Christ who is now found in the etheric realm. So we've got to rise up with organs of perception. Will AI, in augmenting our physical senses, allow us to develop organs that can perceive the etheric? Ahriman, through AI, seeks to capture our awake consciousness by limiting it to our physical senses. How can we break out of this 10,000-year rut? Yes, I would say AI unintentionally could be here to promote exactly that, to get out of this old rut. So all of you, take up the practices and meditations of spiritual science, and you will certainly endure the present and coming pandemonium. Our will has work to do upon the earth, but that which makes us less than human streams up into us from the earth when we live without full mindfulness. It affects our instincts, our passions, our desires, and all that makes us less than human. Our feeling has to go where solar and planetary rhythms vibrate into our lives. Here we breathe the light. Sunlight is the raiment of the gods. We inhale the light and exhale our thoughts. The third hierarchy of angels, archangels, and archai inhale our dead thoughts and exhale to the second hierarchy, living thoughts. This second hierarchy inhales these living thoughts and exhales divine thoughts woven in love that stream to us as sunlight. And so the cycle is completed. This is what Rudolf Steiner called refined breathing. And it can become a major counterbalance to life with AI. In uniting here in love, we become capable of etheric or living thinking. And when we do so, we assist these beings in building our ascension body. Lastly, our thinking has to work to ascend to the fixed stars, wherein the voices of the gods can be heard and understood. Here we can unselfishly grasp the meaning of the Logos. Here we learn the true meaning of human evolution. So a little plug for the MysTech conference, August 9th to the 12th. And I'm sorry to do so, but I think if you have enjoyed this, you will enjoy the MysTech conference as well. And so I will now open this up to questions after I just say, Christ said, "My kingdom is not of this world." Can each of us come to be able to say, my kingdom too is not of this world? So, Andre, back to you.
Yes, dear Andrew, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. It was super intense as usual. And I would suggest to do short break, which is literally 3-4 minutes, to let you rest a little bit, specifically your larynx, because we're moving afterwards in question and answer section. So, dear friends, please be back in 3-4 minutes and we will continue. Thank you so much.
There's so many points you raised there, Andrew. I can't begin to process it, but I've taken a few notes. But I think the key one was the fear, the being courageous, and the role of spiritual science is profound in all this.
Yes, Douglas, thank you. Yeah, and I will mention, since you're in UK, I attended Emerson College, and
Right.
I did the foundation year 78 to 79.
Oh, yes, yes.
And at the time I was working for IBM, and they gave me a sabbatical. And as I would be coming out of the lecture hall, my fellow students would be whispering to me, "How dare you?" How dare I what? "How dare you work for Ahriman like this? Aren't you ashamed of yourself?" And you know, you're propagating evil and you're bringing it in. I'm ashamed to sit next to you, and things like this. So I talked to John Davey. I think you know who John
Yes,
Davey
yes,
is.
yes. I remember John. Yes.
And he said to me, Dante mentioned something that could be helpful for you, that you have to go under the skin of the dragon.
Yeah.
And he said, every field must be penetrated with spiritual science. And he kind of left it at that, but he said, you know, persevere, you will see. And so, you know, I
Also had wise words from John, you know,
always wise words.
back in the 80s. Yeah.
So I credit MysTech in a sense to John.
Interesting. Yeah, because he was a correspondent on The Guardian.
Yes.
And he died earlier than he could have.
Yeah.
Some kind of brain, it was something to do with his brain. He got some condition. I can't remember, but
yeah, that was tragic. And
it was tragic because he was maybe in his 50s. Yeah. But I worked in the telecommunication industry and I had the same response. And maybe there are people here who, at the time, I didn't study a whole year at Emerson, but certainly from compatriots within the Christian community and Steiner field, it was this, you know, you're working for Ahriman. But I was working through it, and I then moved and went to social care and the social work side of things. But that I was just saying to Lucy here, my wife, that time in the younger part of life was crucial to how I tackle life now, and for the last 30 years in social care, because it's there all around, everything you've spoken about. And with the fear that I saw in other people, it somehow knocks them on the back of the head.
yeah.
Leave it at that. But I just wanted to respond immediately to your
Thank you for all of that,
presentation,
Douglas.
off the cuff, so to speak. I haven't thought it through much, but thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Douglas.
So, dear friends, looks like we are back, right? So, Andrew, are you fresh enough to continue?
I had a drink of tea, so I should be good for another 30 seconds.
Yeah. So just a little announcement. So this video on Andrew's presentation will be posted on our website. You should go on our website, which is Rudolph Steiner branch, Chicago, and happenings. Next page is happenings and program. So, and click on title of presentation with Andrew. Now it will be translated because of YouTube options. So with help of YouTube, into many languages, up to 50 languages. So you will enjoy subtitles in Russian, Spanish, etc., etc. So we'll be moving into questions and answers section of our presentation. So, and please raise your hand. So let me just Yes, I mean, in order to raise your hand, electronic hands, it's important. So you go on reaction in the bottom of your screen, Bruce. Bruce, yes. Just go in the bottoms of your screen and click on reaction. So when you
I know
click
how to
on
do it.
okay, you know. Excellent. So yeah, please do it. But chronologically, our dear Waldemar was first. So Waldemar, dear Waldemar, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening and good afternoon for some of you. Andrew, this talk was absolutely extraordinary. I think you should hold it at the Goetheanum. I'm going to write some of the board members, beginning with Constança Calix, who is a Brazilian and member of the board at the Goetheanum, to invite you to hold this lecture there. I think it's a must. And I have 3 comments to make. You mentioned a world that did not exist before. That's one of your phrases. I don't know if everybody of you are aware that Steiner said that for something to happen with humanity, one person has to bring it to the world, right? For instance, the great Buddha brought compassion and love, right? And the Christ brought love. Everybody should love the other. I don't know how to say that in English, but it doesn't matter. Love each other, without any restriction. There were restrictions before. And so this is universal fraternity and lots of other things that he brought. And Steiner brought also many things for humanity that are open now. For instance, the fact that there exists a spiritual science. It didn't exist before him, right? So we may research the spiritual world. He opened the world to everybody to attain the spiritual world. It didn't exist before, not with full consciousness and freedom as he did, right? And so on and so forth. For instance, applications like Waldorf education and anthroposophic medicine and biodynamics that implement the spiritual concepts, right, didn't exist before. So he brought us all these. So all this is open to us now because he brought all of this.
Yeah.
This was the first point. The second point is that, well, just as a side comment, I used to call the last century the century of barbarism. And then I began to call our century the century of the lie. And now I'm calling it the century of the lie and barbarism because of Putin and our former president Bolsonaro here in Brazil and so on. And this lie is one of the instruments that lies are one of the instruments that Ahriman uses.
Yes.
Right? Not just fear, as you mentioned in that verse by Steiner, right? But also lie, And what is happening with the chatbots? Pure lies. Mm-hmm. People begin to think that those are generated by humans because it's so perfect, it's so extraordinary perfect. People that are not in computer science, I could tell you that this 5 years ago, no computer scientist would say that this would be possible. I don't know if you agree, Andrew. And now it's possible. So it's incredible. No, the way these chatbots are composing phrases so well and with context and so on. And my third point is, I think, a very important point. You mentioned transhumanism. One of the main points of transhumanism, and you mentioned that, is the human-machine symbiosis, right? Now, I think this will never happen in terms of our thinking, for instance, in terms of our feeling. Why? Let's take a thinking. I think you have mentioned uploading our thinking to the cloud, right? To the virtual cloud. I don't think this will be possible, Andrew, because for that, it would be necessary to know what code the brain uses, what code is used by the brain to think, right?
Mhm.
And I have a very strong conjecture. This code does not exist. We don't think using a code.
That's right.
You understand? So this code, if we don't use a code in our brain, it will never be possible to download some program, some data, and so on into a computer.
Valdemar, I totally agree with you. I was saying that in jest about uploading to the cloud.
Yes.
That's what transhumanists
Yes.
believe. Some
So
do.
I don't think it will never get there,
Right. We won't.
because our thinking is spiritual, as Steiner said.
Right.
No? And it uses emptiness, a void in our nerves, and not signals, electric signals and so on.
Right.
So I don't think we should have a fear about this. This does not mean that computers could not be controlled by our brain activities. This is already being done, but without knowledge and without code. It's all empiric, They detect with a helm. They detect the electric waves in the brain and transform it, probably using multiple linear regression, into functions that control something at the screen, or robot legs, and so on and so forth. But all this is empiric. It's not based on knowledge how the brain works, because I don't think with the present science there will be a knowledge of how the brain works.
For those that don't know, Valdemar is a professor of computer science at the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil.
Yeah.
So he knows what he's talking about. And yeah, thank you, Valdemar, for all of that. And I fully agree.
Okay, thank you very much. So Nicola is next. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Andrew. A lot in there. So one thing out of the way, you mentioned a talk that Valdemar had given about the fact that computers cannot think, and I wonder if there's a link to that. I mean, I'm from mathematics, so I've just always said, look, obviously computers can't think because computers are fundamentally binary and thinking is not binary. So, but I'd be interested if that talk is available. So that's just one thing. The other thing, I mean, and I'm basically asking information as well, was just about the refined breathing, which I think that sounds wonderful. And I had not heard of this way of the breathing through the angels, or either you could repeat it, or I'll get it when I record, or get the recording, or you might give me a Steiner link.
Sure. So Nicola, the MysTech.org,
right,
MYSTECH.org, has Valdemar's past 2 webinars.
Lovely.
And many others. These go on monthly except during Christmas season. And then there's also posted up there talks given in various conferences in the past. But I'm so glad you bring up refined breathing, because for me, this is something that I see now and then a few pick up a little bit of this, but in general, I don't think it's been picked up by anthroposophists. It remains one of the sort of, shall we say, unknown practices. And I think it's, yeah, well, I think in part it's because Steiner didn't develop it. He only mentions it, and much of it is in the first class. So in lesson 4, 6, 10, and 17 are, especially 17, are the key ones. But he mentions it and a few others. There is, if you really don't want to do the research, it's in a book called Refined Breathing as part of the MysTech study guidebooks. So if you go to, again, mystech.org and navigate to study groups, there you'll find all the books that are available as study guidebooks.
Wow.
And there's one on refined breathing. And they're not being sold for profit. They're just being sold to meet costs. So
Yeah. No,
wherever you are, get a local distributor, you know, the Amazon distributor, they're all through Amazon. So if you're not in the US, don't buy it from the US, but shipping costs will be way too high.
right. Yeah. I mean, basically,
But just a quick comment, you know, just as our breathing, we exhale carbon dioxide, right? We inhale oxygen. That would become imbalanced over the eons, if not for the plant kingdom. And the plant kingdom does the opposite. We would need something similar for this other kind of breathing of the etheric.
yeah.
And all of this has to do with our ascension and all that, and our connection with those beings of the hierarchies.
Exactly. No, I mean that this the being of the hierarchies has been becoming more important and clearer to me over the years. So
Yeah.
this is wonderful. So thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome. It's like Bruce is next, right?
Yeah, Bruce is next. Hello, Bruce.
Hello. Hey, Andrew. Nice to see you. Thank you so
Bruce?
much.
I haven't seen you in ages. but
In
good to
ages.
see you.
No, I know. It's been a long time.
I see you're skiing all the time, but
Well, I have a choice. I do enjoy skiing very much. So I have a brief comment, and I'll post something in the chat, and then a question, which I'll also keep brief. There's a fellow at the Army College, USA War College. I'm sorry, his name is William Barry. He's a professor of emergent technologies, and I've heard him speak, and I'm going to post a link to a interview with him that's just come out. I haven't watched the interview, but I did hear him semi in person the other week at a conference. So he has developed, or the Army College has developed, Chat AI, OpenAI chatbot with a front end that is an avatar. So they have an avatar in front of that they use in front of students, and they've developed it in a way that they use it in the classroom to teach students writing. And I'll let him explain it more after the workshop here. You can watch what they've done with it. He's also going to talk about ethics of this and how they've constrained the chatbot in certain ways so that the students don't just use it to cheat, which is what everyone is worried about in academia. So it's really worth looking at. And he might mention a little bit about what they're doing with it in the Army. He mentioned a tiny bit of that about it in the talk that I heard. I'll just tell you what he said. He said in simulations, this may be in the War College also. So they have a simulation room where there's simulating some conflict. And they have this chat AI avatar running in the background. And so they can ask the avatar certain kinds of things that they would have a hard time doing themselves. Like they want to generate hashtags, codes that you use when you're posting on social media that tell the person who's looking for things that this is something to be interesting in. So they want to put out some information or some disinformation or something, and they have the chat bot generate those hash codes for them. And then the army uses those, the human beings use those to write the write the disinformation or whatever they're doing with them. So it's very interesting. It's the cutting edge of what's going on right now, as far as I know, in the use of these chat bots in teaching. Okay, my question is very different from what I've just said. I mean, if you'd like to comment on that, that's fine, but you should really listen to what he said, what William Barry has said before you think too much about it. I've found in my own personal experience that when I meet Ahriman in my life, and it's everywhere, and I mean, this whole world that we live in is an Ahrimanic created dream, that I thank him. I just feel great, deep gratitude for what has been brought in the world through Ahriman. And when I do that, I find that it changes everything. And I just wanted to ask if you've experienced that, or if you've tried that, what your experience is with the use of gratitude around these issues.
Yeah, that's not going to be easy for me to answer here amongst all these people in a private conversation. It could be somewhat easier to know the kinds of things that you've expressed gratification for. We get into our cars, we do things today that 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, people would be stunned that we do these things. But I have told people that having this attitude is an important part. But I will also tell you that I'm not fully there yet, in that I can hold a good attitude towards people even when I'm seeing them do horrible things. But when this computer does something like suddenly blue screen on in the middle of something I'm doing, I find I have more French in my vocabulary than I ever knew. So I get very angry at times, much more than I ever let out when I'm with human beings. I have much more anger towards it. So it's interesting, the emotions that we have. And I think gratitude is a very good emotion to have towards it all. The more we interact with these elemental beings, the more we will be able to become their saviors by redeeming them when we get to Jupiter. Yeah. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yaya, your turn. Hi.
Thank you. And thank you, Andrew, for the incredibly illuminating lecture that you gave us. I have just two brief comments to make. You mentioned at one point spiritual cowardice.
Yes.
And in my vocabulary, in my everyday vocabulary, I call that moral cowardice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that we all have constantly offered choices that we too often consider unsurmountable challenges, and hence we tend to hide from them, which in practical terms means we are not taking our potential to the development that is capable of.
Mm-hmm.
The second point that I want to just underline is you mentioned that both St. Paul and Steiner said enduring the chaos,
Right.
enduring the, there was another word that wasn't chaos, but you know,
Pandemonium.
exactly, pandemonium. The very fact of enduring, and this is my personal experience, leads one to take one's place in the evolution. If we refuse to endure, then we abandon the possibility of being fully in a real incarnation. We move into a dream world that doesn't take us anywhere. So in fact, enduring is the necessary step in order to learn to accept the responsibility of being who we are and where we are in this day and age. If we do not endure, we abandon the hope of embracing the future.
Wonderful.
That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, that you even said it poetically. And I would encourage you to write it and offer something printed up for the London branch, you know, or wherever you're at. I think it's London, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was beautifully said, just beautifully said. That's a
Well, since I am a poet, I will try and will send you a copy.
lovely.
You, Andre.
Thank you, Yaya, very much.
Okay. I will attempt it. It's challenging, but it's possibly of use to someone.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that.
I'll just say quickly, Yaya has been writing things in the Anthroposophical newsletter that a lot of us have been enjoying already. So
wonderful.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
well.
you. Thank you.
I love to see people active, and that's great and responsible.
Yeah, you said that you get angry and furious and use a lot of French words when you find the blue screen coming up. I get the same reaction when I see laziness taking over our lives instead of engaging,
Right.
both at spiritual level and through human interaction, especially.
Yeah.
Which is something we can all do and often don't. But thank you. Your lecture was so clear. It really explained a lot to me that I had question marks for.
Thank you. Saying so.
Yeah, thank you, Yaya. So here is Waldemar again. Waldemar?
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to comment on what Nicola said and also what Yaya said. Nicola, computers are binary machines, but not out of necessity. They could be ternary, they could be decimal machines. They are binary machines just because of technical convenience. Being binary, they are faster and more reliable, right? Not because by necessity it has to be binary. It could be any numeric system. And you said that our thinking is not binary. Our thinking is not numeric. The basis of, we can think numerically, but the basis of our thinking is not numeric, right? But for Yaya, you mentioned moral awareness. Well, I think it would be nice to recall that Steiner said that we cannot find moral in the natural world. We cannot find moral in minerals, in plants, or animals. Only humans have moral, may have moral. right? And another point, Yaya, is that Steiner said that machines are subnatural. So imagine in moral terms what it means if nature outside of humans has no moral. Can you imagine what a subnatural realm has in terms of not being moral? It's even lower, right, than minerals, plants, and animals in terms of moral. And we are being forced, we are being induced by Ahriman to use more and more machines, right? It's interesting that Andrew used that word, the key, we are not going to use the key for controlling a car. But in this sense, it happens that most of car accidents, are produced by faulty actions from humans, right? Most of them, 90%, I think, right? So if we have an automated car, fully automated, with less accidents, it will be used and it will be useful, right?
Right.
And here we come to a very important point. What is the big problem? The big problem is that humans are not acting as they should. That's why they are being substituted by machines. Humans are not being spiritual. They are being more and more materialistic, right? And without being spiritual, we'll never be able to put the machines in their right place. Only by regarding machines as giving us freedom from our own forces and nature forces, right? For instance, you are hearing me. Ahriman is giving us through these machines, right, the nets and so on, giving me the freedom to reach you, Yaya, right? So now we are, Ahriman must be very, very angry at this moment because we are using him for positive spiritual intentions, right? I'm sorry for being long.
Right. That's
No,
why
no.
my screen goes blue all the time. Yeah, I'm kidding.
May you allow me to reply just very briefly, but that's why I made the point I made, because even in interacting with machines or using machines, we can rely on our moral core in order to begin the redeeming of all the negative beings that in some situations are called demons. If we do not personally accept that responsibility, then we are giving up the hope for a better future for all of us, and the hope for the spiritual science to become a reality in everyday life for everyone. We are giving up everything that we've been attempting, more or less successfully, to do over the last 100 years. That's all. Sorry if I've taken up time from Brad.
No, it's totally fine.
I apologize.
Andrew, any answers, or I can ask?
We can go on to Brad. I think Yaya and Valdemar were quite clear. I agree with both of them.
Okay, Bradley. Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
When I was a young adult, I used to play video games quite a bit. There was talk in the mid-'80s of having a device that you could wear like a headband that would be able to read your thoughts in a primitive way using so-called brainwaves, I guess. And so that kind of technology with several decades of advancement, I can imagine people trying to utilize to somehow try to quote unquote store one's personality, at least in terms of thinking. I don't know about feeling, but you know, who knows? That's just what I wanted to mention.
Well, I will just quickly respond by asking, did they really say it was thinking? Because what I've seen for these glasses and so on was identification of what you're seeing. So as
No, it was a headband. It went right around your head. It was reading your theta waves and your alpha waves, I think.
I don't know how it would, anyway, to me, that sounds like science fiction.
I hear you, but I take it quite seriously.
Okay, I don't know of how or where that technology. I used to, Brad, but you know, I've been retired since 2013, but I can't even tell you some of the places I've been, but as a solutions architect, and I saw a lot of what was being studied and what, you know, in the conversations with them, you know, what was really viable. And pretty much the work that's going on today with brain computer chip interfaces is way kind of like, how can I put my smartphone under the skin?
Yeah, no, I'm aware of stuff like that. But
Yeah.
this was a whole next level kind of thing.
That's right. That's a whole nother level. I agree. So I guess we have time for one more from Valdemar.
Oh, I have an answer to Brad.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
Yes. You see, these helmets, what do they read? Well, reading is not the correct word because only humans can read, but well, never mind. It should be input and so on. But anyway, never mind. What do these helms read? They read electric currents that are going through the brain. And we can, if we think in certain ways, we can produce certain electric currents. And these currents, the radiation, electromagnetic radiation of these currents are detected by the helms. The helms are not reading the thoughts. They are reading these electric currents.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, and nobody knows how come our thinking produce those electric currents. So as I said before, this is all empiric, right? They detect the currents and make the person think in certain things and so on, and then they make the correlation between what is being detected, right, to the thinking that, to the thoughts that the person is exercising at that time. It's all empiric. You understand? The machine is not reading our thinking. It's reading a consequence of our thinking.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Waldemar, Andrew, and everybody. So I would like to mention just two aspects of dealing with technology. And first of all, you know, with help of technology, individual human being is sliding faster away from hierarchies, which is good side and bad side in it. Good side, so we have a possibility to accomplish consciousness soul in all details away from spiritual hierarchies. Of course, this is part which is danger because we're separating so intensively. So, and in the future, you know, humanity will be separated in the good and bad ways. And second aspect, this is social, because we know intelligence of computer, for example, is growing, and pretty soon it will be much higher than intelligence of the individuality. So single human being will be not able to deal with artificial intelligence. And this is good impulse for creation principle of brotherhood among human beings, because human beings will come in a group in order to master demons, which are inhabiting our our devices, our computers, etc., gadgets. So only all together, human beings will be able to deal with Ahriman. So, and great tendency and great impulse. So brotherhood will be based on it. So again, I'm quoting Rudolf Steiner from some courses. I don't remember J. Yeah. So this is my statement. Yeah. Andrew, as usual, thank you so much for your wonderful, super intense presentation. Again, it will be posted very soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe on Monday, so on our website. And I'd like to invite you guys all for our future presentation, which will be presentation of Gene Yeager, who served as administrative director of the Anthroposophical Society in 90s and early 2000s. And he will raise question about constitution and all kind of legal things of the Anthroposophical Society. I think it will be supported by audience. And so we'll have big weekend with our astrosopher Mary Stuart Adams. So, and it will be introductive lecture on May 5th. And Saturday, it will be almost 5, maybe more hours of workshop. So, and if you're interested, please take your rulers and compasses and, you know, sheets of papers, because we're going to do our own charts. Or charts, which is include and tropical and sidereal approaches, zodiac. So yeah, please join us in the future. Yes, and now, dear Andrew, thank you again. And please, guys, feel free, unmute your machines and say live, thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
And
right.
and thank you to Valdemar as well, because
Yes.
the two of you completed the picture
Yes.
for each other. And thank you, Andre, for
You're
organizing
always,
this.
Yes.
always, yeah, welcome. Very
Valdemar,
welcome.
I planned this.
Valdemar, you are right.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
I
Yeah,
know.
thank you, friends. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. God bless.
I look forward to the recording and to hear it again.
Yeah, yes. Tomorrow, maybe Monday. Yeah.
Is that what you said? It would be posted up?
Posted on our website, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because often when you hear it a second time,
Yeah.
yeah, it embeds more. Yeah.
Yep. I
Great.
went through it very quickly. So, yeah.
Very good.
All right, Douglas. Thank
All
you.
right. Good night and good afternoon, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, Andre.
Thank you.
Bye.